Level 1. The Mulo Mariani. You are a 17-year-old farm boy. You are a recruit, carrying 60 pounds of gear on your back through the mud of Gaul. Your shins aching from wooden sandals that offer no protection against the cold. The man ahead of you has been vomiting since the second mile. Nobody stops. The column keeps moving because the column always keeps moving. That's the first thing the Legion teaches you. It teaches it without words. They call you a Mulo Mariani, a Marius mule, named after the general who stripped the supply wagons and loaded everything onto the backs of the men, so the army could move faster and strike harder. You did not know this when you signed. You know it now, because the training officer told you while you were already carrying the 60 pounds. He seemed to find this funny. You left your father's farm 6 weeks ago. The recruiter came through your village with promises. Regular pay, 3 meals a day, 25 years of service, and a plot of land at the end of it. Your father said nothing when you signed. He handed you a loaf of bread and turned back to the field. You have thought about that silence every single day since. You drill with a weighted wooden sword until your arms give out. Then you drill again. You march 20 miles and dig a fortified camp at the end of it. You sleep 4 hours and march again. The training officer beats the slowest men across the shoulders without breaking stride. He does not shout. Nothing you do surprises him. You learn that the Legion does not want soldiers. It wants machines. Machines do not get cold. Machines do not miss their fathers. Machines march. Level 2. The miles. You have survived training. You are a legionary now. A miles. Your gladius hangs at your right hip. Your pilum rests in your hand, weighted at the tip, designed to bend on impact, so the enemy cannot throw it back. You are a weapon system. Every piece of you has been engineered for a single purpose. Your first battle arrives on a gray morning near a river you cannot name. The enemy comes out of the tree line screaming. Your training officer walks behind the line and says one word. Hold. You hold. The shield wall is nothing like the stories. It is wood and iron and bodies pressing against each other. And when the enemy hits it, the impact travels through the shield, into your arm, into your shoulder, into your back teeth. You put your gladius into every gap that opens in front of you. You do not look at faces. You were trained not to look at faces. You learn what war actually is. War is physics and discipline. The line that holds longest wins. The line that breaks first dies. When it is over, you sit in the wet grass and your hands shake, and nobody mentions it because every hand in the Legion is shaking. You clean your blade. You eat your bread. Tomorrow, the Legion marches. Level 3. The Immunes. Your officers have noticed something about you that goes beyond holding a line. You can read. You can calculate. You can look at a hillside and understand where the ground will hold the weight of a siege engine and where it will collapse. You are reassigned. You are an Immunes now. A specialist. Exempt from the daily ditch digging that defines ordinary Legion life. You build bridges across rivers that have never been bridged. You lay roads so straight and so precise, they will still exist long after everyone who walked them is dust. You draw maps by firelight that generals stake entire campaigns on. The other soldiers call you a clerk behind your back. You do not correct them. You know what you built today will outlast everything they will ever do with a sword. Your eyes begin to fail from squinting at maps in poor light. You say nothing about this to anyone. Level 4. The Tesserarius. You are watch commander now. Every evening, you receive the watchword and distribute it to the sentries posted around the camp perimeter. You walk the walls in the cold hours before dawn. You check every face for the particular heaviness that comes just before a man falls asleep standing up. Your greatest nights are the ones where absolutely nothing happens. No alarm, no breach, no incident report by morning. You used to dream of glory in battle. Now you dream of a quiet watch. You have developed an eye for the moment just before something goes wrong. The sentry who is too still. The shadow that moves wrong. You catch problems before they become disasters. And nobody praises you for it. Prevention has no ceremony. Only failures get noticed. You find a quiet pride in the absence of catastrophe. It is enough. Level 5. The Optio. You are second in command of your century now. You stand at the back of the formation during battle, with a long staff pushing wavering men back into line. You are the wall behind the wall. While the Centurion leads from the front, you manage everything from behind. The rations, the paperwork, the records, the disputes between men who have lived too close together for too many years, in conditions that would break most people. You learn that leading men is nothing like fighting men. Fighting is simple. There is an enemy. You kill him or he kills you. Leading is an endless negotiation with human weakness. You settle arguments about stolen food and unpaid gambling debts. You mediate between men who share a tent and cannot stand the sound of each other breathing anymore. You track who is sick and who is pretending. You write the daily reports and make sure the numbers are clean, because dirty numbers get men killed when the supply chain breaks in winter. The men thank the Centurion when things go well. They blame you when things go wrong. You accept both without complaint, because the century only functions if someone is managing the chaos behind the discipline every single day, without anyone noticing. That someone is you. It has always been you. Level 6. The Centurion. You are the backbone of Rome now. Everyone above you is politics. Everyone below you is muscle. You are the hinge. You carry a vine stick, not as a symbol, but as a tool. You use it. The men do not resent you for it. They respect you for it. A centurion who cannot maintain discipline is a centurion whose men die. Your body is a map of the empire's borders. The scar on your left forearm is from a skirmish in Britannia. The one across your ribs is from a Dacian blade during a river crossing. You walk with a slight lean that never corrected itself. You have decided not to limp. There is a difference between a wound and a limp, and you made that decision years ago, and you have not revisited it since. You know every man in your century. You know which ones will hold, which ones will break, and which ones are brave in a way that will get them killed, if you do not manage it carefully. The actual art of command is not the sword. It is the placement. Level 7. The Primus Pilus. First spear. The highest ranking centurion in the entire legion. You sit in councils of war now, alongside the legate and the senior officers. You are no longer just a fighting man. You are the voice of the men. When the legate draws a plan on a map, you are the one who tells him what that plan will actually cost, in blood, and boots, and winter rations. You have missed birthdays. You have missed funerals. You have a son somewhere who is nearly grown and who you would not immediately recognize in a crowd. You send money. You send letters when there is something to say. There is less and less to say with every passing year. You have reached the peak of what a man born without a name can reach, through pure survival and competence. Above you, the ranks require birth and political connection. You have neither. You have something better. You have the absolute respect of every man in this legion. When you walk through camp, conversations stop, not from fear, from weight, from the silence that forms around a man who has seen everything and is still standing. Level 8. The Praefectus Castrorum. You have moved off the battlefield and into the office. Camp Prefect. You manage the grain, the equipment, the weapons inventory, the endless summaries of summaries that keep 5,000 men alive and functional in hostile territory. You are extraordinarily good at this. You are also quietly dying inside from it. You spent 20 years becoming the best fighting man you could be. You survived shield walls and river crossings and winter campaigns that killed better men than you. And now you sit at a wooden desk, reading reports about broken cart axles and spoiled grain shipments. You do it without complaint because it matters. Because 5,000 men eat or starve based on whether you catch the error in the supply ledger. You catch every error. You always catch every error. Your wife is with you now. The posting is stable enough. You eat dinner together most nights. You have very little left to say to each other. You have become partners who pass in the kitchen. You love her. You are not sure she still loves you, or simply the idea of you finally being home. You do not ask. Some questions are not worth the answer they might give you. Level 9. The Legatus Legionis. You command 5,000 men from a stone building with walls and a door that closes. You have a staff. You have a cook. You sit in councils with governors and senators whose families have been powerful since before your grandfather was born. Politics is now half of your real work. You understood war. War has rules. Politics has only appetite. You watch the men around you with the same careful attention you once gave to enemy formations. You look for the slow knife, the letter copied to the wrong person, the praise delivered in exactly the wrong tone, in front of exactly the right witness. You have survived battlefields across 3 continents. You will not be destroyed by a dinner party. You make decisions that end lives, not in battle, where the violence is immediate and honest. In offices, with a signature, you write the orders and hand them to your aide. You do not watch what happens next. This is the weight the histories never record. The paperwork of violence. You carry it. You do not put it down. Level 10. The Governor. You sit at the top of millions of lives. Your decisions move through the province like water through stone. Slow, invisible, permanent. You set the tax rate, and families eat or do not eat. You sign the treaty, and a generation does not go to war. Nobody thanks you. The man who prevents the flood is never celebrated, the way the man who survives it is. You walk out one morning into the cold, early light, and you see them on the road below. A new column of recruits, boys, 17 years old, carrying 60 pounds through the mud. Their sandals are wood. The cold does not care. One of them looks up at you. He sees a man in a heavy cloak on a hill and looks back at the road. You watch them until they disappear around the bend. You remember what it weighed. You remember your father turning back to the field without a word. The column is gone. The road is empty. Somewhere behind you, a door opens, and an aide begins reading the morning reports. You go back inside. The cycle continues.